All right, welcome everybody to our latest MX Vice SMX review show podcast as we talk all things San Francisco Supercross from what was a wild night of action in the mud. Before we welcome our guests, thank you everyone for listening and supporting the site. We really appreciate it. We'd like to thank Golf Racing, Fuels, Fly Racing, Monster Energy, Fox, Parts Europe, Scott, Bell Helmets, Acherby's, ASU Performance, Kawasaki UK, KTM UK, Whole Shot Motorhomes, O'Neill, and of course Even Strokes for all their incredible support, as without them none of this would be possible. All right, we've got back by popular demand, Whiskey Throttle Editor at Large, Jeff Beaver. How's life? And thanks for joining us, mate.
Life is good, man. I sat out San Francisco this weekend. The work needed me up at the gold mines here in Nevada, but I did watch every minute of the racing live and was coordinating with Nate. We had Nate on the ground out there. The poor guy was soaked from head to toe. He actually fried his iPhone last night. As he was going up to the podium, he pulled it out and it kind of kaput right in his hand. So Nate had to go get a new iPhone on the way home. So he's driving home from San Francisco right now to shoot our Supercross review with Ping and Bruce. But yeah, it was gnarly, dude. I don't think anybody came out of there without some war wounds. I mean, just everybody from the riders to the teams to just track crews just looked like they went through World War III. It was insane, you know. And I was sitting in my warm hotel room just kind of going, yeah, it's all right. I'm not too upset I missed this one. Nate, I think Nate was dropping a couple F-bombs with my name on it because I wasn't there.
He probably would have heard you on the press conference there too, mate.
Oh yeah, no, you know what? He was I asked him if he was in there, but his phone fried and he goes, "Man, I didn't have any questions." He goes, "I was covered in mud, didn't want to go in there," and he knew that we'd be on the Zoom part of it. So we just went ahead and did that. But that's kind of a cool thing. You know, if we're not able to go, we're going to be at, I think, pretty every round in one fashion or another. We got Jacob Fricker on our East Coast feed. So he's come on board and he runs a thing called the Atlanta Moto Crew. You guys should check him out. He does some really, really cool stuff. He's friends with Shea Bentley and he's got a huge collection of like old pro circuit two-stroke memorabilia, and he runs a big motocross collector thing in the United States. I think there's 6,000 people in that group. They're all like rabid motocross collectors. That's how I met him. And he's rad, and he puts on races out there and just does a bunch of cool stuff. So he fits right in. He's real creative, and so he's going to be covering a lot of our East Coast stuff. And then when I break from work, I'm going to go get the last 4 rounds with him and whatever ones he does. But yeah, we just been having a lot of fun. But that Zoom call, I think it's rad because like last night I was laying in bed after the race and Pink says, "Hey, I need you to cover this." All right, well, I hopped up and made myself presentable and hopped on there and had some technical difficulties. Man, that was nerve-wracking. That's the first time I've ever done something like that, you know. And I'm like, okay, don't drop any F-bombs, don't say shit, you know. Be professional, you know. Like I had to pretend like I was at work in a conference with some bigwig client or something, you know, and I couldn't quite be myself. But I think I laid out a pretty good question for Chase, and you know, it was an interesting night. But what did you think of the whole race, man? Let's start with the 250s. What do you think?
Well, I guess starts were so important as we found out. And a lot of the guys, you listen to them talk and it was just wild. It was basically about survival out there. It was pretty savage, wasn't it, mate? So much going on. And a lot of dudes were saying it was probably the toughest mud race I've ever raced, especially some of the younger guys, those 250 guys, pretty inexperienced, probably never raced that at the highest level. And it was pretty interesting to see Jordan Smith obviously winning because he has the experience. He's been around for a long time. But before we get started on the racing, mate, definitely feel sorry for the teams and all the crew there cleaning that up, packing all the bike up, cleaning it, all the gear, getting the rigs back to the shops or back to the next round. A thankless task, that one. Those guys will have a hell of a job on their hands. So respect to those guys. But yeah, to start with Smith, obviously put himself in a position to shine, didn't he? Claimed his first win since 2018. First time he's had the red plate since 2017. So he mentioned he had the scoop tire going and he just managed it really superbly, didn't he, mate? His balance was good. He was up on the pegs and navigating those sections well at really great speed too. And like JT was saying, it was so important to get the speed to get the mud off that rear tire. So he had his flow going, mate. I guess the experience held him in good stead. And I guess he'll be feeling the time is now for that title, won't he?
Yeah, I mean, I still think it's between him and RJ, and I think Levi's entered the chat definitely. He's got some good consistency. I think Max would be right there. That mechanical, I mean, that was heartbreaking. I was like, I mean, Max lives an hour from the city, an hour east. You just hop on Interstate 80 and you're up Sacramento, and that's where Max is from. So that's Max's home race. I was like, dude, this dude's gonna podium his home race for PC. This guy's dialed, bro. And then that bike, I don't know what happened. I imagine the clutch fried, but I was just like, shit, that sucks, dude. And yeah, his mechanic's pit board may have been in two pieces on the side of the track. I can neither confirm nor deny that thought, but his mechanics from up there, and so he wanted it to do well, and that had to just be heartbreaking, because he was riding so well. But
Only 2 laps in, too, he was out.
yeah, I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was a clutch. One would assume it's a clutch being in mud like that, but I think Ricky said something on the pod or on the TV cast that he could hear him like kind of clutching and clutching and clutching to keep away from the guy who was behind him, and maybe that was it. I don't know, but I mean, those pro circuit bikes are about as good as they get. So if I think it was probably, if you look at it, it was probably a fluke. But yeah, him and then Shimoda. I don't know what the hell happened with Shimoda's bike. I mean, he just had a horrible night in the main. I mean, talk about highs and lows. The dude goes out and greases the heat race, like, okay, Joe Shimoda's a mud rider, and then, they made a good thing on the TV show that, hey, he did good at East Rutherford last year in the mud. So next time we have a mud race, he's got to enter the chat, right? Shimoda can ride mud. But I mean, that had to have been heartbreaking for, Honda and them. That was probably the roughest night Honda's had in a couple of years, and you're going to get them. But when you don't know how to win if you don't know how to lose, right? So the next time they win, it'll be even that much sweeter. If you win everything, it kind of loses its luster. And so this will be good. This will be good fire for Joe, I think. And he's got a great trainer in Nick Way. Nick's about as level and even keeled as they come, and been around and done it all. So that was heartbreaking. But one of the neat things was seeing what's his name, Ryder DeFrancesco. He got a heat win. That was cool, so um I didn't expect that from him in the mud. Bakersfield kid, yeah, he's got to know how to ride in the mud. It rains up there a lot, but just never kind of pegged him as a mud rider. Well, apparently he can ride mud. I don't know really what happened in the main, but the main was so much different than the heats. And knocking down the rollers, I heard a lot of people kind of griping about knocking down the whoops, and it's like, dude, you would have had a bunch of bikes stuck in there. You probably would have got somebody hurt, somebody, put their foot in a rut and then run their own leg over. It just, at some point, it's not worth it. So to the people out there bitching and moaning that the whoops were taken out, at some point you got to consider the guy's safety, and it did help with the raceability, because now then it still ended up squirrely as hell. It was just a bunch of rollers with ruts in it, but yeah, I didn't balk it. I think Dirtworks and the AMA, they made the right call on knocking those down. I think it was good. But the racing for the 250s was fun as hell to watch. Just squirrely. I mean, just some of the best riders in the world. And they're going straight. I'm going straight. Oh shit, I'm not going straight. And they're just off the track. Just no choice. Just gone. That's the beauty of a mudder. You just never know what's going to happen. And poor RJ, man. It's no story. Bruce is a huge fan. Bruce was up at the NGPC race in Delano, sitting in his motorhome watching the race, and I bet there was a loud, audible F-bomb that came out of his trailer when RJ hit the ground, and yeah, so that's not good. And yeah, that just sucked. But he's only 9 points down, right? So. He's going to kill it. And then, Levi showed that, hey, he's a gamer, he's happy, and it'll be a real interesting season. Can Jordan maintain and get the consistency? Because, since he was on TLD KTM, he'd have these flashes of brilliance, and then he was kind of his own worst enemy. He kind of grenade himself, right? And we haven't. And Levi's, he's the same way. He'd have a win, and then the next week, just, well, where'd the Levi from last weekend go? So are these guys going to figure out their consistency? Well, RJ's, out of all of them, he's had the most heartache, I think, but he's probably best poised to be consistent, and I think, to me, the 250 racing's the one I'm most looking forward to watching. Is just there's so many clear people who can win it, right? You know, between RJ and Max, and Joe's capable. You know, does Francesco get it together? You know, there's there's just so many people, and in the 450s, there's probably a few clear people, and that's it. You know, so the 250s last couple of years have been my favorite class to watch. So I'm just fired up, man, and I cannot wait for Detroit. I got my airplane ticket for that, and it's game on.
Yeah, it was so cool, mate. It was like with those 250 classes, just full of unpredictability. It's mayhem. You don't know who's going to win each week. Different guys on the podium all the time, different winners. And especially with those Lawrence brothers, like we were saying on the last podcast, vacating the 250 Supercross. It's just so much up for grabs. And yeah, you really feel for Shimoda having that horror night. Obviously, he went down early and then had the bike problems. And to get no points and to be almost 30 back in the championship standings, that's definitely not what he expected to start the season. Do you think it's too hard for him to come back now, or obviously with the 250s racing less, is that just about championship done, or do you think he can sort of eke a few good results out, get some wins and close the gap? It's going to be pretty hard though, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if he went on an absolute tear the next 7 rounds and was on the podium every round, yeah, there's still a distinct possibility, because all it takes is a bad round or two for RJ or Levi or Jordan, and he's right back in the game, you know. And that's the other crapshoot. You don't have as many opportunities in the 250, so I don't think he's out of it yet. If he has a bad round at San Diego, I think then you just try to go for race wins and save some face. But those guys at Honda aren't dumb, and Lars knows what he's doing. They're gonna figure out what that mechanical was, and it'll never happen again. Whatever that was, they'll fix it. I can't say never, but they'll do everything in their power to make sure that, air quotes, that never happens again. Right? I mean, they're sharp as can be. So I don't know. One of the things about that race, you know, Bruce, or I'm sorry, Brent brought up a question to us before the post race was, and so I asked this in the post race press conference of all three of the guys up there, of Jordan and Levi and Garrett, was, you know, when you see Shimoda's bikes locked up on the track, and then you see Max is locked up on the track, are you so like just focused on the 5 feet in front of you and not eating shit in the mud that you even notice that those guys are locked up? Or do you see those guys and then go, oh shit, man, I mean, those guys' bikes failed? You know, what do I do? And, you know, Garrett Marchbanks, he's huge, you know, he's a lot lighter than he was, but that's a big old boy, dude. He's taller than me. You know, he's a big kid. And, you know, that's kudos to Yamaha. If that thing could stay together with him on it, you know. But, you know, I asked him, you know, how bad you freak out, and they were like, you know, yeah, you kind of start noticing that. Levi's like, man, I saw Max's bike on the side or in the track, and I was like, uh-oh, I better keep an eye on my bike, because there's pretty much spot on identical except for some settings, right? And so there's some mental challenges that come around when you see guys blow up their bikes, per se. It's mental chess, you know. So you're trying to keep it on two wheels, and also, you know, like Jordan made a good point with the cable clutch on that Yamaha. You know, you got to make sure you're not dragging the whole time, or, you know, you'd be in trouble real quick. So how do you ride that kind of track as fast as you possibly can with the best riders in the world and worry about, is my clutch adjusted right? You know, wouldn't care if that clutch is adjusted right. I'd be screaming in my helmet trying not to end up under the bleachers, right? You know, look like an arena cross race. It was rad, and it was a good equalizer. It definitely opened up the doors to have some gnarly racing. Some people are going to have to do some extraordinary things to get a title now, and let's see if they can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. The series is going to be awesome. And I just wanted to touch back on Kitchen. How good was that ride? He was absolutely flying. Obviously, him and Smith both on the podium from the opening 2 rounds. And he had the fastest lap time. I was speaking to Paul Piercy on the Stats podcast this morning. And yeah, Kitchen absolutely flying. He almost got the win. I reckon if there was one more lap, he would have got there. And obviously, growing up where he did near Washougal, he's pretty used to those wet, muddy conditions. So he's looking good. He looked so good. A lot of bike skill there, mate. A lot of determination. Obviously, the talent's there. And yeah, obviously, that bike, he's loving the Kawasaki. He's loving the program, the freedom. And one thing that probably, wasn't really covered that much on the broadcast, he was probably outside the top 15 at crash at the start. The speed and just the commitment in those conditions. Pretty impressive ride, wasn't it, mate?
Yeah, I mean, hey, he's grown up at Washougal and it's wet there all winter, so the dude knows how to ride slick snot. I don't think anybody goes out and practices in that shit, but there's guys who go out and ride in the woods. And I remember growing up as a kid getting in some stuff so like, what the hell am I doing? And, muddy crap, and you're digging your bike out more than you're riding it. But nobody goes out and truly practices in those conditions. They showed at Club MX, Mike and the boys made some mud conditions for those guys riding. They were riding in the rain, but it nothing like where the ruts, you're waist deep in the ruts going over rollers. I mean, nobody's doing that to their facilities. So it's just a whole order of magnitude higher when you get to that level of crap. But Levi, he's tall. He's tall, lanky legs. I think Max would have done real good had his bike not had an issue. Real good technical skills, long legs to kind of bat through there. Jordan's not the tallest guy in the world, so that was pretty impressive. To be able to dap around and keep it on two wheels on that track was pretty good for a guy who's not as tall in stature. Garrett, yeah, he was winning. He just stick his leg out as like a ski pole, right? So one thing they talked about that was pretty funny in the press conference was one of the guys asked, so you passed Phil right at the end and took away his podium, how much shit are you going to catch for that? And I would just love to be a fly on the wall at Club tomorrow when they get into the locker room and start getting dressed and head out on the track. He's going to be talking more shit than a farmer. And Garrett's going to pay for that win. There's going to be some steak dinners. His helmet's going to get painted pink. There's going to be Speedos hung in his locker in place of his riding shorts. Yeah, it's going to be game on. Phil's not going to let that one slide too easy. He's going to pay some hell for that podium finish. Can't wait to hear the inside scoops. That's the first thing I'm going to ask Garrett when I see him at San Diego is like, all right, so yeah, what'd you have to pay the piper this week? So we'll get back to you next week on the price that Garrett paid for that podium.
Oh, mate, yeah, that was so cool seeing those guys battling. So good for the team, obviously, after round one didn't go so well with Phil's bike. Not being able to race the main, that was just horrible for him after all that work in pre-season, all the preparation, just a freak little incident there. But Phil was pretty gutted to miss the podium. I think with 5 minutes left, he was second, and then he was 18 seconds ahead of Garrett with 2 minutes to go. And then obviously Cole Thompson went down in front of Phil, and he just had nowhere to go. Like, obviously, in those conditions, you can't just maneuver it like you please. So, yeah, it was a great bounce back.
I'd have ran that son of a bitch over.
Yeah.
I'd have just mowed him down. Screw him, dude. If there's podium money, dude, you're getting run over. If I can run you over, dude, for that kind of money, yeah, you're gonna have a bad day.
Yeah, I know. Just that was probably the difference between the podium and not. And Phil probably doesn't know when he'll get another chance for that. So, but I guess you probably know the ClubMX guys really well. That's a great program, a great team. They're so dedicated, put the work in, like they all do, mate. But it's just really cool to see their success, obviously following on from Lopes last year, and they're ready to do some serious damage this year. Obviously with Martin too, and Nicoletti and Marchbanks flexing their muscle last weekend. It's great times for the team, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, look at Garrett, killer these 2 rounds. I mean, damn, where'd that come from? But he's healthy, right? He said in the press conference, I'm finally healthy, and the kid can ride. He's won the Daytona Supercross in the 250s. I mean, the kid's got skills and speed. And I really hope he stays really consistent this year. And I'd love to see them get a win. I texted Mike last night from Club, and I was like, man, right on, bro. That was awesome, And so we're gonna try to get Garrett on here real soon and have a chat with him. He's funnier than shit, So he runs a pretty loose program. He don't care, He's gonna have fun. And but there's something good going on there. I would like to think Phil and Jeremy Martin are having a real good positive impact on the other guys on the team. The one I'm really looking forward to in the East is Jet Reynolds. You look at him, he's slimmed down quite a bit. I texted him today. He hasn't got back to me, but I've talked to him quite a bit, and he's just like, hey man, I gambled on myself. I only took a 1-year contract, and I don't want to waste anybody's time. And when you're in that headspace, that means you're ready to party.
he's got a one and done mentality. It's his go time. He you know, so, and he said that place, to get back, I kind of segued off there, but it ties back into what kind of place ClubMX is. He was like, man, I have no excuse. I've got to get up. They've all got to get up and they walk to the track. They walk to the gym. You know, it's all right there. There's no excuse not to kick the shit out of life and racing and all that stuff. So I think that's probably a damn good thing. And the team guys are super cool. Real good influence. I don't think anybody's in there screaming at the dudes. Nothing that I've ever seen would lead me to believe that there's like a negative atmosphere over there. I think it's a real positive atmosphere, and you're there and you have no excuse to not do your work. And when you do your work, you're going to get results. You know, you like, look at Jeff Stanton. He always said, I wasn't the most talented, but he worked his butt off, right? And if you work your butt off, you're going to get results. So I think with Garrett, I think on the East, we're going to see, hopefully Martin has a good year and makes it more than a couple laps in Supercross. And I really want to see him have a great year. A couple years ago, it wasn't the case, and that really sucked. But yeah, Jet will be a good indicator of how awesome that program is, right? You know, I think he's going to surprise a bunch of people, and I think Garrett's going to continue to surprise a bunch of people. So yeah, it was pretty cool to see some other teams in there kicking butt. And what about who's that kid on? Let's talk about Barek Suzuki, that number 100. He was up in a podium. What's his name? Bourdon? Yeah. How do you pronounce it?
Bourdon, yeah, the Frenchman. He's a bit of a Supercross king. Obviously, pretty cool to see him out there as well, wasn't it, mate? He was holding his own in there, and he had a fall as well. I think he was kickstarting the bike, and he had a bit of adversity. So to still finish where he did was super impressive, mate. So those French guys are no joke on Supercross, and obviously races it all over, World Supercross, the French Supercross series. So very talented, those guys, aren't they? They know their way around the tracks, even though that's probably something he wasn't expecting, mate. But good for the team. They put a lot of work and resources into it and try to give these promising talents a lot of the time some rides and even some experienced guys. And obviously your thoughts on that ride, but I also wanted to touch on Billy Laninovich, mate. Obviously got the cool coverage on the TV, had a nice interview with JT. Sadly, he missed the main again, obviously after A1. Not ideal conditions for him. We had that spill in the LCQ. Everyone was cheering for him to make it, and it was, just cool. The world got to hear his story a little bit more, especially after you guys at Whiskey Throttle sort of shone the spotlight on him a lot at A1, and we're doing some cool pre-event stuff with him. So just your thoughts on those guys would be awesome too.
Yeah, I mean, just to finish my things on BarX, I think is getting better and better every year, and they've got some great young talent. That kid, he wasn't on my radar. Now he's on my radar. Obviously a great mud rider, Frenchman. I just thought that was cool to see some other teams than the big dogs up there getting some television coverage. Preston Bosflug is going to be out there, and I think that kid's going to surprise some people. He got a lot of training from Buddy Anthonez, and he's training down at Kevin Wyndham's. So there's a lot of cool things going on with these not quite factory teams, and we're starting to see some of those results. And so I think it's going to continue in the East. So I'm super excited to see guys like Jet and Preston Bosflug. There's just going to be some people that come up. I mean, look at Enzo Lopes, now look at him. He's on Star, it's just cool that there were some other kids getting opportunities. Now, Billy, man, that's Uncle Billy. That's what I want to start calling him. Uncle Billy's back, Uncle Billy, 40-year-old, Uncle Billy wanted to go racing. All right, man, we're going out. But dude, I think he's quickly capturing the US Supercross, fan bases. Just everybody loves Billy, dude. There's not anybody who's like, yeah, go Billy, and nicest dude you'll ever meet. And he even, Nate caught him right as he came off the track. I mean, mud all in his face. All right, fresh off the track, Billy, what'd you think? And he goes, I ain't a mud rider. I guarantee you, he actually did the triple in his qualifying round. I mean, the dude knows what he's doing. But I think when it just came down to it, he's a very smart man at 40 years old. Like, yeah, cool. I'm not going to kill myself to qualify and go do another, man. I mean, you don't got to be the head cashier at Walmart to figure out that that's just not the brightest idea. Just save yourself for San Diego. And I texted him this morning, and I told him, hey, I'll be at San Diego with the boys, man. And he was all stoked out. So he's not bummed. I think he's probably just happy he's got all his fingers and toes and his bike's in one piece.
So old John at Motor Medic, he's probably got a lot of work on his hands starting tomorrow to get that bike ready for San Diego. Because I don't care how easy you're on your bike and that stuff; those bikes are roached. They're just, you got to tear that thing down to the frame and go through the whole thing, dude. And just everything's worn out, you know.
Yeah, massive
But
respect to
Billy,
all those guys.
yeah, Billy's home. Billy lives in Ramona, so he's only a few minutes from that stadium. I mean, I want everybody over there in Australia and England and everybody just put out that good vibe. Billy's gonna make the main at San Diego. That, I mean, that dude, I'll be hoarse on Monday morning after San Diego when Billy makes that main. We're gonna have to make it a shorter pod. We'll get your boy finally link up with your other buddies so we can make this a true collab between England and Australia and America. You know, I really want to see him get in here so I want to hear his thoughts on stuff too. So we'll get our schedules lined up, but it'll probably be good because I won't have a voice after Billy qualifies. I'm gonna be screaming, dude. I'm just gonna kind of nod a lot when he's talking to me, but yeah, that'll be great. Billy's just rad. Supercross needed it. And I just can't wait for him to etch his name in the record books for that too, as the oldest guy to ever qualify. And I think his birthday's coming up in February, do you believe? He'd be 41. So let's get one at 41, And it was funny. Somebody asked at the press race, hey, a lot of you guys, didn't know who Billy was, or whatever. What do you think about riding at 40? And Levi's like, I ain't riding at 40.
Yeah.
They're like, Jordan's all, I got 12 years and a couple months, but Levi's like, ain't happening. Or I think it was Levi. I couldn't see their face on there. It was a background picture, but it was either Levi or Garrett that said it, but they just instantaneous. That ain't happening. I ain't doing it, But you never know until you get there, But he's fortunate that he had a lot of good years of no injuries and healthy, and lived a good healthy lifestyle, and it allowed him to be able to train for since October and come back. So I mean, the whole thing's just impressive, dude. They had to make a movie on him, fine. When this is all over, if he makes it, they're a real Supercross the movie, the Billy Laninovich story. That'd be pretty. I'd pay $12 to go see that.
Yeah, hopefully they have some cameras following this year for like a comeback, movie. That'd be pretty awesome. And I totally agree with what you were saying on him. It's really cool that he's sort of capturing the imagination and probably motivating a lot of riders all over, all different age groups. So we just want to see him succeed. And yeah, you guys will be on hand to hopefully witness the moment where he gets that main event next weekend. Going to be awesome. And I wanted to get a couple of your last thoughts on the 250 class. Obviously, the guys like Breeze, Mumford, Bourdon, Yoda, all different guys in the top 10. It's so cool to see those mud races throw up the results and let those guys get some, career best finishes and some really remarkable achievements. So, Mumford probably should have had the podium on another night, shouldn't he? Because I think he was, on the podium spot with 3 minutes to go, went down and buried the bike. And obviously, it's all over the shop from there. And I think he was mentioning he sort of eased off the start. He let everyone go ahead and then sort of navigated through the carnage and just made up a heap of positions off the start. So that was cool to see him getting a good result and doing some positive things for that team. But yeah, and even Hunter Yoda definitely making some really good strides in recent times. And Varese has had a tough sort of couple of years with injuries, you feel, and he's trying a lot of things and different teams. And yeah, to do that, I guess it's a testament to all the hard work for a lot of these guys, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, first I got a bone to pick with Reese. The bike snapping thing, that's Ping's. You shouldn't have tried to take that thunder from Ping, man. Now everybody's gonna be like, oh, you're the guy who snapped your bike in half too, I'm gonna start calling Ping 2.0. No, David Pingree snaps bikes in half and walks away, dude. And don't try to steal my boss's thunder, bro. We're gonna have a problem. But no, I'm glad he walked away. He's a super good kid. Nate, our filmer, and him go way back, and he, spent a lot of time around him, and I've got to interview him, and just super nice kid. So I hope he stays healthy and gets back. I'm glad he didn't get weeded, but he was there last night. So he's just got to work on his consistency and get going. And Yoder, he's top 10. That's rad, dude. It's good for his team and him and Mumford. Oh, I wouldn't want to have been in his pit after that race, dude. Oh boy, I bet it's a good thing the pits are closed after the racing, so you don't have a bunch of children around. It sounded like I was in there just angry at the world, F-bombing this, F-bombing that, it's just, you put all that effort into it and all that heart into it and strategy. That was smart. It's like, do I go for the 1 in 22 chance that I'm going to get the whole shot, or to let all these guys just go out there and grenade themselves, and I'm just going to kind of be the tortoise in there. I'm going to be the tortoise, and I'm just going to poke through. So kudos to him for being super smart, and he's a damn good racer. But to get all, I'd rather go down on the start and finish last and something like that than to be so close and taste it and then eat shit with a couple laps. Oh, that would piss me off. God damn it, I'd be mad. I'd be talking so much shit. I'd rather just, man, I sucked all night. I had no chance in hell, but it was fun. And I ran into this dude and that dude and I hit that guy because I don't like him, screw that dude, and just I went out there and raised hell. But if you're like, man, I got a podium position, and it's been a while since that dude's had a really great result, and to have that off, yeah, I guarantee you he could not have been stoked. But hey, you live and learn, and I don't think we've heard the last of him this season. I think Vince knows how to ride a bike, and he's riding with Vince every day, and on that team, and Tony knows how to do things. So I have no doubt that we haven't heard the last of him, and I would not be surprised if he ended up on the podium pretty soon. He's a phenomenal rider. So all joking aside, I think he's gonna do fine.
Yeah, super skilled and super talented, like you said. Absolutely agree with all that. And on to the 450 class now. Obviously, Chase Sexton, absolute masterclass out front there. And obviously, considering all the off-season, the pre-season hype about he's struggling, he's uncomfortable, which he did mention. And I guess he's thanked the team for all their effort and hard work. And he's got back on track, mate. 2 podiums in the first 2 rounds, getting that win. And how good was that start? That was absolutely unbelievable. There's not many better starts in the world. Obviously, Prado would have been extremely proud of that one. So even though he sort of almost went over the bars, hit that soft spot going into the first turn, but that was a great ride by him. He managed it so well, got the job done. Even though Tomac was giving him a little push at the end, sort of threatening to challenge there, and that was a great ride from him too, which I'm sure we'll touch on to reignite his season. So yeah, those guys are looking pretty ominous, and they've certainly got that gap closed back to Jet, haven't they? And even, in the case of Sexton, on top of the standings.
Yeah, dude. I mean, so we'll talk about Chase first. Well, let's talk about that track first. There was a hole out there on that start, and I think it almost ate Chase, and Jason Anderson hit it. Did you see Anderson go down on the start?
Yeah, I saw he fell too.
Yeah, I guarantee you his nuts are somewhere up around his heart right now. They got slammed that far in there. I'm glad he had a child, because I don't know if he's going to be able to have children after that. His boys, everybody stand and salute Jason and his boys, because I think it's man down syndrome right now. He's probably sitting on a pack of ice at home right now, rethinking life. That was so brutal. I was talking to Nate right before we got on, and I go, dude, did you see Jason's wreck? And he goes, no, I knew he went down. I was on the other side of the track. And I go, well, the Berries took a beating, dude. He went right into the bars and over. Dude, that was brutal. But it looked like they all hit the same hole. And it was probably a bike that just got stuck on the start, and they yanked it out. There's just a huge gaping hole there, and then full with water. And so Chase, I mean,
I think
dude,
Mookie ran into the back of Anderson too, didn't he?
Oh yeah, Mookie. Those guys. The universe wants those two to party. Hopefully they just get along and start winning. But those two dudes cannot avoid each other. They're gonna be like Bubba and Reed after they retire. They're gonna be best friends. They're gonna sit around and go fishing or something. But yeah, it's just like, Jesus, those two came together and they didn't even mean to. It's just like, damn it. What is going on over there? I'll figure out my wife's train of thought before I figure out what's going on there. But yeah, dude, it was so rad that the TV cut to Chase, and dude, I was so mad at Anaheim. I was behind him and saw that, and we got that on film as start at Anaheim, and I was like, man, if we would have been filming, because he did that, the pump in the fist, and I was like, whoa, dude, what the hell, man? Dude, that's crazy. That's pretty intense. I like it. I like it when people get aggro, and I didn't get it on film at Anaheim, and then they caught it on TV, him doing it, and then, dude, that start was just adios. And I like how he's like, dude, it was just dumb luck. I thought I saw a flinch and I pinned it, dude. And it just, the stars aligned and he was gone, dude. And then he almost went over the bars, and I was like, oh, and yeah, this whole start was a shit show. I was bummed at AP. AP was right next to him. And, if you look at the start, he got blasted and kind of, all right, man, I'm going to go back. But he still ended up fifth. He still ended up fifth. So, You know, but it didn't work out like we wanted it to. We all
I
wanted to
think he
see
had no
AP
goggles
come.
since the second lap, so that's impressive.
Yeah, he had Dale wiping his eyeballs for him, man. Old Earnhardt was doing miracles for him, but to come up through fifth through that crap, oh God. I mean, but anyway, we're getting off thing about Chase, but for him to hold it together through all that, I would love for those guys to be able to get mic'd up during a race. Dude, that would be gold. Just to hear what they say, and you can bleep an F-bomb, it would, dude, it would be just, everybody would tune into it, right? Like Feld's missing a golden opportunity right there to do that, but getting the teams on board. But if it could ever happen, it would just be internet gold. But I asked him during the post race, you lap Jet, and when you're lapping him, they smacked into each other. Jet had just crashed. He gets back up, and they smack him. Chase went around him on the right side, and it was only like a foot or so, and he would have gone off that thing, and he would have yard sailed and crashed and handed the win to Tomac. Because if he went off that track, Tomac would have won that race, right? So I asked him, I said, hey man, first, did you know that was him you were lapping? And then when you hit him, did your heart rate like spike through the roof? Because it's like, this is the last lap. Holy shit, I'm running into I'm lapping Jet. I know that wasn't in their thought process. Nobody saw that coming. The Pope didn't see that coming. And and he was like, dude, he goes, yeah, it's just, he goes, I hit him, and he goes, I just was focused on, I've gotten a lot better at dealing with when I have an issue on the bike during a race, I just process it and get along and move on, is kind of summarize what he said, that, just I take it and process it and right back on to doing what I was doing instead of letting it get in his head. So that shows a lot of mental maturity on his part, and his confidence has got to be through the roof right now to go through that bullshit and come out on top. So I was stoked for him because I like him. I think he's a cool dude. He's a great racer. I think he's a nice guy. He's always polite as hell when you go talk to him. He's never like Johnny Cool Guy. I can't stand Johnny Cool Guys at the track. I just like, yeah, you're great on a bike, dude. Cool. But you should be nice to everybody. We're nice to you, right? But he's super cool. So that was rad to see him go. And then Tomac, yeah, the shark was in the waters last night, dude. He was, when Chase had that little bobble around that where that 180 was, and they're like, oh, how close is Tomac? He was just like, go, 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 go. But that was great to see him get back up there and get on the podium, and now it's go time, But I think Jason Thomas was saying that on the broadcast, or I think it was him that was talking with Ricky about how there was a different Eli Tomac coming. That Jeremy Coker said there's a different that he was pissed off last weekend. After last weekend, there was a different Tomac coming to the race, and a weak Tomac that was having issues would not have been on that podium. So I think he answered a lot of questions for people. So it's San Diego. The weather's supposed to be dry. What's up with Eli? Does he come out and just grab Jetson and Chase and go, no, Junior, smack them both on the butt and toss them off to the side? And does he get a dub, or do those guys say, no, Pops, it's our time now. Yeah, you need to go out to the pasture. So this is pretty cool, man. There's so many rad storylines right now,
No, 100% well said. It's just, it flows on and it just keeps building, mate. There's something different every week to sort of throw a spanner in the works, and the competition's so high and the field's stacked, and not so many injuries too, which is really great so far. You see some of those guys getting such good results. It's so impressive. And obviously to fill out the podium, we had Ken Roxon, really great bike skill, carrying the momentum. And he mentioned the line choices. He found some really tidy ones, and it just underlined his adaptability again, didn't it? To, get on the podium. Obviously he rode extremely well at A1, just the main event. He had that adversity at the start, but he does it all, doesn't he, mate? Motocross of Nations, AMA, indoors, outdoors, SMX, World Supercross. It doesn't matter what it is, Kenny's still a star. Phenomenal skills. It's just leaning on his experience and technique. And he mentioned on that press conference you're in about the shock and fork setting he found before A1. So the comfort's there. He's happy with that Suzuki. And it was really cool that he took a minute and just shone the spotlight on Shane McElrath. 2 Suzukis in the top 4. They're absolutely amazing. The team are doing an amazing job. And, Shane's had a pretty tough few years, hasn't he? And to get that success, that awesome result. It's so cool to see. Would have even been good to see him on the podium. If we had McElrath and Nicoletti, it would have been sort of a perfect night, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, McElrath with that bald head, he could have just grabbed a rag and just squeegeed it off and looked like he wasn't even in the race, man. He'd been like, ding, teeth sparkling. But that dude, Shane McElrath, I hope you get to meet him sometime. If
Yeah, done a
like
podcast with him last year. Super great bloke.
Yeah, meet him in person. Just the nicest guy, dude. You would never want anything bad to happen to that guy. He's solid. He's just super polite guy. So I was pumped on him. But yeah, Kenny, I said it that last week when we talked that he looked just way more comfortable. Or I mean, not that he was uncomfortable last week, but you could tell that bike's just another year older, and they just got it that more dialed, and he was killing it he killed it in that first heat race in Anaheim. And I would have loved to seen if he wouldn't have crashed in the main, to what he would have done, because he's a gamer. There's no doubt that he's a threat to win every round this year. It's not like last year where he kind of came in and, hey, he might get a win. I think he's a legit threat to get a win at any given time. And so it was cool to see him get back in there. And as a racer, he has really proven himself to just be kind of able to adapt and do it all, and his technical skills. So it's kind of cool to see as him get older. He's kind of like Tomac. As he's getting older, he's actually getting better, as far as his way of handling things. And, one of the things I was going to ask, is kind of how much of a mentor he is. I wanted to ask him how much of a mentor he is to Shane and Shiz. And I think Shane's riding with them during the week, and at some point you gotta pass on your knowledge, right? So there's probably some of that going on. So that's pretty cool, because there's only so many Tomacs and Roxons in the world, and Jeremy McGraths and Ricky Carmichaels and David Baileys and Rick Johnsons, and so if you get a chance to go ride with those guys, you better be a sponge, or you're one dumb son of a bitch if you don't, So yeah, that was cool for Kenny. I hope he has I want him to get a couple more wins, through his career. I hope he has more. My thing is, when a guy's at that point in his career, I want him to when he does set sail, that he can walk, and he's not completely broke off. Look at his arm injuries. He's got his little boy. Just go ride with your kid and go wake surfing and mountain biking and surfing and all that stuff. And I hope that he has a good rest of his career and gets some more wins. Yeah, hell, maybe even win a championship. You never know. Nothing's out of the picture. And I would think we probably got another couple of years with him. And then guys like him and Tomac and Justin Barsha, those guys are going to be gone. So, you only have so much time. So yeah, I think a lot of people should be picking his brain every chance they get to ride with him. And, what did you do at this point in your career, and what would you have done different? Be the questions I'm asking him, not necessarily how you ride the bike, but how do you deal with this situation in your career, so that you can what would you have done different, kind of stuff, So the guy's a legend. I mean, and so it was cool to see him get on the podium, and I'm really happy for the guy as a racer to see where he's at.
That's excellent insight. Very well said there. And definitely got to enjoy him in these sort of twilight stages of his career, because he's just such a uniquely talented rider. The stuff he does on a bike's mind-blowing, even to the other riders that are at such an elite level. And yeah, his knowledge and experience to pass on, even if whatever he decides to do after his career, I'm sure there's a spot for him, whatever he wants to do, because yeah, he's kind of one of those heavy hitters like Jet Lawrence that sort of transcends the sport. And he's just everyone, when Kenny's around, it's just good for motocross and supercross, because he's just the man, isn't he? And it's been really good to see. Obviously, he hasn't had so many big crashes lately, and he's a really safe, measured, calculated rider, despite the fact that he's just those sprint laps is just so crazy, the speed. So yeah, the control and everything to do with Kenny's so impressive, mate. But obviously, we touched on AP earlier. Really solid. If we were betting men, mate, we probably would have had the money down on AP for the win after the heat race and the qualifying, the speed. He was a favourite heading in. The cards just didn't fall in his favour off the start. And then, like we mentioned, with the goggles situation, yeah, he'd be struggling now. Probably even still, he'd be wiping it out. But yeah, gave it all. A little bit frustrated. But I suppose big picture, he's still right in the title fight, isn't he? He's only, he's fourth and he's only 10 points off. So overall, I guess you can be pretty satisfied for AP, even though he would have been kicking himself. The things didn't go his way for that win.
Yeah, I mean this is the best start to a season he's ever had in the 450s. And what at Daytona he screwed up his heel, and then he had a couple rough years. So this is just great. I take top fives all day. And this sport is turning into, if you get a top 10, you're dialed. I think this sport is really heading towards the model of F1, where you're going to have 20 or 22 factory guys. That's it. And it's going to go into that. And then you're going to have like a Formula 2 series, which will be the 250s. And then you'll have a Formula 3, which would be like arena cross, something like that. I think that's the way the sport's going to go, AP. So I almost think, if you think about how all these people talk shit on the internet, if he would have won last night, it would have been, oh, what was a mud race? He can't win a regular, there'd be all those haters talking shit. Right. And so kind of glad in a little way. There's a little silver lining to every situation. And we're just going to save that dub for a nice dry night in a stadium where he just waxes everybody. The mullet's just going to be flying. Do It For Dale's going to be flying. He's going to see the air like Dale did. It's going to just be freaking epic, and everything's going to be right in the world that night, So you just have to wait a little longer for old AP. But, at the end of the day, that dude's the people's champ. He wins every round. He's the people's champ. Nobody likes Dean Wilson. He's right there with him, but nobody's more the people's champ than AP, just smiling from ear to ear the whole time and just nice to everybody. I mean, yeah, he'll do it, So silver lining is we'll just get it when it's dry.
Yeah, he's so refreshing, that sort of a figure in the sport, isn't he, mate? He's got time for everyone. He loves having a laugh and a joke, and he doesn't take anything too seriously. So, yeah, he really resonates with the fans, and it's little wonder that, he beats himself and the fans love him for that. So everyone's wishing him the success, and fingers crossed it comes this season as well. And as we the time's flying here, but as we rack down the class, obviously the 2 European riders winning the heat races, first ones as well, obviously Ferranda's first 450 heat win. Obviously, main event was pretty brutal for him. He's had those crashes, but still managed to pick it up and achieve a really solid result there. And Prado, obviously, we spoke on him. You were there seeing him in person for his debut, which was an incredible sort of achievement. He had a good night, an even better night here, even though he's not the biggest fan of the mud. But yeah, just the balance, the skill, the coordination, the line selection. Pretty happy, 7th in the main and a heat race win. Very good night's work, wasn't it? So after he sort of admitted A1, he really did struggle with the night racing. So yeah, one more left for him before he heads back to Europe to prepare for the MXGP season. So your take on those guys, mate, very impressive, weren't they?
Well, yeah, and I'm super stoked that through this whole process, I got to sit there with him when Ping interviewed him and talk to him for a while at the KTM team launch. He was there that night, and then to be there through Anaheim 1 and see all that, and his first Supercross. And then, a part of me was super glad I wasn't at San Francisco last night because of all the mud and the water and everything, but that would have been rad to be down on the track when he came off with his first heat race win. I mean, the dude's just cool, dude. He's just a nice guy, and he's just cool, man. So good on him. I don't think we've seen the last of him. I think that heat race win probably all but guaranteed at some point in the future that he's going to come race Supercross. He got a taste of being on the Jumbotron and being Ricky Carmichael and Jeremy McGrath. Not to downplay MXGP World Championship, because a lot of people over here, we look at it and go, dude, those guys are so gnarly. They're they're rock stars too, right? But those guys, he just loves Supercross, and you could just see he looked like a little kid up there that he was on the podium. He went back to being 9 years old, getting his first race win or something. You can just see it in his eyes, and so that was sick. I was pretty happy about that.
Yeah, absolutely. It was very cool to see. And yeah, it just would have boosted his confidence and probably, yeah, cemented his idea that he's pretty keen to come full time next year. And yeah, the Supercross will be great to have him, and the MXGP will probably be sad to see him depart. But overall, great for the sport as a whole, works well for everybody just to have the spotlight on it. And the guy that's, yeah, just really international star. So we look forward to, seeing what he does. That last race, he'll probably be happy to get a dry one back to a bit of normality. Like most of them, you look at the guys AC. That was pretty cool to get an 8th. Obviously, A1 didn't go as planned, but he was mentioning how it's just such a mental challenge keeping focused and being dialed in, and you always had to be on the pulse. You couldn't take your step away for a second or you'd have an incident or a crash. And like Chase said to you in the presser, the heart rates weren't necessarily so hard, but the physical side of it really came into play as well in a different way with just managing those heavy bikes caked in mud. So it was a very different challenge, and I guess a lot of those guys had to adapt to it, and AC respect for getting 8th there, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, and I think you just touched on something. It wasn't exactly the heart rate; it was more of the strength. And you think of probably the 3 fittest dudes in Supercross right now is Sexton, Tomac, and Ken Roxon. You know, they could probably all go win a triathlon, right? They're just world-class athletes, you know, and so that was cool. But to see Ferrandis get a win, that was rad. And I know Ziggy was smiling from ear to ear. That factory connection suspension was doing good at Anaheim and doing good in the mud. And Dylan's definitely building some confidence. I guarantee it. It's going to be really interesting to see when he can actually show us that he can ride that bike like he rode his 250. But it'll be rad to see that guy get a win, because I think if he gets a win this year, then he's going to stay around a while longer, right? And he's got no better person in the world than Ziggy and the Phoenix team to get him what he needs. I mean, look how big that team's stepped up this year, you know. So if he gets a dub, I think we get him a couple, 2, 3, maybe 4 more years, you know. The guys are riding a lot longer, so guy like him in the sport is great, because you never know what he's going to do, and when he's on, it's amazing to watch. Like 2020 season when he was on Star in Supercross, it was just like, dude, that guy is so freaking fast. He's just wicked, you know, and it'd be nice to throw somebody else in there in the mix to disrupt Jet, which we haven't got to yet. So I'm going to take the lead here on this. What did you think happened with Jetson last night?
Yeah, I listened to him after the race. Obviously, I think he was just happy to get some points, make it through. Not really his favorite kind of racetrack. He even said East Rutherford last year, which was that Savage Mudder as well, was better. Just, he said that track was shocking, you know, at least he could do some jumps and stuff at the other one, but he really struggled to sort of let his skills be the difference maker on that one. And yeah, we're probably not going to see too many more of those results for Jet. Cool to see Hunter make it. Obviously, he's got that first main event done in the books in the 450 Supercross. But yeah, I think Jed will just be pretty happy to forget that one and move on like a lot of guys. And just as we sort of rack off these riders, obviously, special shout out to Barsha. Obviously, he was battling that illness, very valiant, brave achievement even being there. Obviously, had to go through the LCQ, which wasn't ideal, especially when you're feeling horrible. So he was so bad going to the race, he was even in hospital. So, you know, to turn up and do what he did, get some points, survive the weekend, get out in one piece. It's pretty impressive. So do you sort of echo those thoughts on those guys too?
Yeah, I mean, I thought Jet would do better than he did. You know, you never know what's going on, but I thought he would not struggle like he did. Maybe he had that thing super stiff, or had the suspension. Maybe he missed his setting for riding the mud. I don't know. Shit. I figure the guy could really ride anything, but you know, I think Levi said I was riding around in first gear, dude. You know, so how much does the suspension really matter? I don't know. I imagine it matters something, but it was a surprise to see that result. He is one of those guys. I think Chase ain't going nowhere and Levi's not going nowhere, but I kind of started thinking last night about after the Japanese bomb Pearl Harbor, one famous quote from Yamamoto is, all we've done is wake a sleeping giant. And I think last night his own results woke a sleeping giant, and it'd be real interesting come San Diego. Yeah, I don't think we've ever seen that kid truly pissed off. And I bet he was. Yeah, I've seen him little hints of when when things aren't going the way on the bike he wants, and he's going to be. I guarantee he's beating the shit out of himself right now, you know, and I think he's going to be a monster at San Diego. I'm going to kind of throw that out. We really don't call the predictions for the next round, but I think Jet's just going to come out and he's got something to prove, and to have that guy have a chip on his shoulder, oh, that's going to be dangerous. So. You know, it may have been a good thing. You know, like I said, you got to learn how to lose to learn how to win, right? So,
Yeah, expect him to come out swinging like a lot of other guys. And just to touch on the Rockstar Husky guys, Mookie and Christian Craig, obviously, yeah, disastrous starts to the race. They're having crashes respectively. And yeah, just not really ideal for him. Obviously, all the hype was around Mookie coming in, and he's just had those two unfortunate main events where things haven't gone his way and he's gone down and having to force through the pack. And then, yeah, that main event, he was 2 laps down, got the bike stuck in a hay bale, he was saying after the race. So yeah, that wasn't ideal. And did you hear any word on what happened with Christian Craig last week? I didn't really hear too much going on there. Did you get some insight on that one?
No, I don't know what happened. They kept that pretty close to the vest. I don't know. Maybe that onesie was giving him a wedgie and he had to get off the track. I don't know shit. But I was glad he came back, so that was good. But yeah, it was a rough night over there for Nate and the boys, and they've got a good bike and a great team and a great manager, and they'll dust it off and they'll come back. And we haven't seen the last of Moogie or Christian or RJ for sure. And they'll dust it off. It's just a shit night for them. And gas, dude. How about Bam? Dude, guy was on his deathbed all weekend, and he was a little salty at us for a while after SMX. Didn't probably want to talk to us very much, even though I don't think it was really a big deal. But Nate caught him last night and asked him, we're going to put out a little interview here with him this week, you'll see. But Nate just went for it and said, "Hey, man, you want to talk? It's for Whiskey Throttle." And he goes, "Yeah, I got some shit to say." So he was all fired up. Everyone's like, "Is he going to be out of gas?" Well, apparently after the race, he wasn't, because he was super cool. It wasn't like a jerk or nothing. But he's like, "Yeah, I got some shit to say." That dude operates on piss and vinegar, dude. He's a little ball of fire when he wants to be, dude. So I bet he was dead to the world this morning, but yeah, it was pretty impressive to know that he was that sick and still went out there and rode his ass off, so you got to give respect for an effort like that. So good on Bam Bam and his team and all those guys. So the gas guys, they had a pretty decent night, Prado getting the win and doing good, and Bam Bam just going out there and just being an old school badass. So that was pretty rad.
Yeah, and you were mentioning some of the fittest guys in the sport. He's definitely up there, isn't he? He's an absolute cycling machine, and the training. And like you said, he's getting towards that twilight of the career, and he still loves it. He still wants to compete. He's just an animal, and it's hard to take it away from those guys. They just want to win. It's just built into them, isn't it? And it's hard for when those guys stop, how they navigate retirement. But yeah, enjoy them while they're here. And to wrap this one up, it's been a ripper chat. The time's flown by. What's happening with Whiskey Throttle this week? Any final thoughts? Obviously, you got some cool content in the works, and you'll be boots on the ground in San Diego next weekend for another fascinating Supercross round.
Yeah, we got some filming we're doing this week, and I'm stuck up here at this gold mine. I fly home Friday, so I'm gonna miss press day, but I'll be there Saturday, and we're just gonna go for the gold, and we're gonna have some cool content dropping this week. Got a lot of clips of the riding out there, so. Nate got some pretty cool shots that we're gonna start dropping through the week to kind of just keep showing everybody what had happened, and some stuff from the NGPC race that Bruce did. Unfortunately, the official stuck Bruce in the wrong starting line at that off-road race, and instead of starting in the front row where he was supposed to, he started in the second row, and he was apparently he's not kickstart Kenny because he had some issues kickstarting the bike, but our boy still passed 30 people and finished 5th, even though he got put in the wrong starting line. So I think Bruce has got a bone to pick with himself, and so he's going to be training and riding his butt off. I'm going to wrap my stuff up. Nate's got to dry out. It'll probably take a week to dry out all of his camera equipment and his hair. He's got a little perm going on there, so it's going to take a while for all the water to drip out of that thing. And Ping, he's running around like a chicken with his head cut off doing everything. So we're kind of wild and crazy this week, and we'll see you guys at San Diego.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time, mate. And obviously thanks to all the listeners and the sponsors for supporting these podcasts, and all the fans for listening again. But thanks again, mate. All the best for the rest of the week, and we look forward to speaking next time.
Yeah, man. Hey, thanks. Look forward to talking to you guys next week.
No worries, mate. Have a good one.